I'm going to spit a little game. It might get dark because the sun is going down. It's beautiful where I'm at, but on this video, I want to talk about why everyone is struggling and the work hard myth in the United States. So currently, guys, um, I'm technically still at the job, and I'm here to just vent, but also be honest. A lot of Americans are struggling, and it's not race based specifically, but a lot of Americans are struggling. It doesn't matter if you're Asian, Hispanic, Latino, um, white, European, black, Native American, whatever you identify as, Jewish, people in America, the United States are struggling. Now, people worldwide are struggling, but people in America are struggling on a level that I don't think that most people have ever seen in our time. Now, why I say that is because we know that people have struggled before. We know that people have struggled during the Korean War, the war in Vietnam. We know people have struggled historically in many different places. But right now in the United States, guys, people can't afford their rent, mortgage, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, dental insurance. If you're not working for a job or a major corporation, you may not even be able to afford to pay your premiums. Right now, we have our country that's about to experience a government shutdown, and I don't really care if you're on the right, if you're on the left. As an American, I think that you should be able to look at things a little bit objectively and say, how would a government shutdown benefit the American citizens? Think about all of your family members who may work for the government, who may work uh, in a position where they are directly tied to the government, and this shutdown is going to affect them. Think about how, because as Americans, we're arguing about the left and the right. If the left does something, people on the right say, look what the people on the left did. If people who associate themselves with being on the right, when something happens, they say, oh, you're on the right. Me, I'm not on the left or the right. I'm gonna repeat, I'm not on the left or the right. I'm not a person that's on the Democrat side. I'm not on the Republican side. I'm on the side of who's going to create a system and a plan that's going to fix my life and my loved ones in a concrete way that we could see. I'm on the side of the United States. I think once you start getting onto the left side or the right side, I start to look at you like, you're not really rocking with us as a whole. You're not really rocking with people in the United States because um, we've seen the uptick in political violence. We've seen a lot of confusion, and I'm not here to demonize either side, the left side or the right side. What I'm saying is people are struggling. People on the right are struggling, people on the left are struggling, okay? Um so no matter what side you're on, people are struggling. And so let me kind of give you my perspective as a young millennial. We were told go to school, which many of us did, go to high school. When you graduate high school, get a degree and a trade, and or a trade, or go to the military. And after putting your work in, your time in, things will be better for you in the future. The problem that many Americans are experiencing right now is that they did just that. They put the time in, they put the work in, they've been working their butts off. Um, what I see is that older people inherited struggles from their parents, A lot of them parents fought in World War II, in the Vietnam War, Korean War, but they also was born before like technology really took off. And now we're in a situation, guys, where Americans, young Americans, are in a position where things are literally unaffordable for us. And a lot of us are prideful. We don't want to talk about this, but I think I'm going to talk about it. Things are unaffordable for us, you guys. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, imagine growing up and you see older people with multiple cars, multiple homes. Um, you can see where getting a high school education, entering the workforce, getting a college degree, getting a trade, going to the military, starting a business, working for a business, investing even where those things paid off for a large cohort of the older people. And when I would say older, I would say anyone that's 50 and older. You inherited a better situation than the younger people. So with capitalism, what really happens is that imagine you have a pie. This is how I envision capitalism. Imagine you have a pie, and in the people who get to the pie first, their pie is cheaper, but you get a larger slice. And the people that come later, they have to pay more to get what's left. Right? Would that make sense to you all? Now, let's say we talk about scarcity. We say that in capitalism, they say that scarcity increase value. So the less pieces of the pie, and we all want a piece of this pie, if half of the pie is gone and is the best pie in the world, and is what's left is going to be more than the people that took the first half. So what we have is like the older people, because of their birth order and the fact that back then people could have more children and raise them into adulthood, they have the largest piece of the pie. It's no coincidence, guys. We have people in our government that's 75, 76, 80 years old in political office. To me, without being an ageist or being part of like ageism, I think that's completely like counterproductive because I believe that you're out of touch with the younger people. I think that you should be able to mentor, you can get elected, but the fact that so many older people are in office, they're passing laws and things that strictly benefit them. That's either true or it's false. We don't have a lot of young people like me, 30 years old, 35 years old, in positions of power. So the people that's 25, 30, 35, 40, since a lot of us are not elected officials, we can't get our grievances across. But I think that's going to change because we are looking to change things. And young people can't afford things because the older people are in control. And from what I see, they have collectively made things unaffordable. So one thing I struggle with is like housing, right? The price of a house. So I want you to to understand that in reality, everything depreciates. If something is brand new today, 100 years from now, that thing is going to not be brand new anymore. Common sense, age. These people have created a system where a house that should depreciate with wear, tear, years, hurricanes, storms, snowstorms, all of these things. They have created a system since they had their money in the housing market that a house built 50 or 60 years ago is worth more than a house that's just been built today. So let's say a person bought a house for $40,000. Granted, 30 years have passed. They now can inflate a price and sell that house for quadruple of what, that house could go for 130,000, 150,000. I've seen some people that even said they had a house in certain locations that was 100,000 when they bought it, and now that house is worth $1 million. Now, while that's good for them, it sucks for everyone that's trying to buy it. How can the average young person afford $1 million house? Even to me, even a house, guys, that's $400,000 is too pricey for the average young person. Debate me on this. When you deal with you got student loans. Most people have student loans. You have, you want to probably start a family. The milestones we have to hit, um, the mortgage costs, and then the job market is terrible out here, guys. Like whether you have a college degree, I had a thought the other day. I want to know what you think. I thought, what if people just stop attending college completely, especially Americans? If the purpose of going to college is to graduate and get a job, but there's no jobs here, and most of the jobs are being shipped overseas, then what's the point of going to university? I'm gonna repeat that. If the point of getting an education is to get a job or start a business, but mainly people go to college to get jobs, right? But the jobs, the mega billionaires are creating jobs overseas instead of in the United States. What is the point of going to college and getting in debt if there's no jobs here? I'm going to repeat that. Why would you go to college, get student loans? Now it's different from my generation. Like if you're 30, 35, 40, okay, it's a little bit different for us. We grew up in a different era. 15 years ago things was different. But the way things are now in 2025, 26, 27, 28, 2030, what would you gain from attending a university when jobs are being sacrificed to automation? There's no real manufacturing or warehouses here in the United States. The medical industry is under attack. So the transportation industry, the oil and gas industry. I was in Houston the other day, and I was talking to some guys that were there for an energy conference, and they asked me, can traditional energy sources and solar coexist? And my question was, why wouldn't they be able to coexist? But you got to understand how the people that rule the world do is either this or that. They believe in monopolies, they believe in kings, the divine right of kings. I think that thinking has really messed all of us up. That if you, but like, I believe that no one should be a king, period. That's just me though. Because when you believe that you could be a king, and then where does that leave everyone else? To me, that's the worst thing humans ever came up with, where it's like you have a royal family, a king, but then everybody else is what, peasants. That's a sickness. Or you have a pharaoh. You have the pharaoh, excuse me, my camera is what you call it? You have a pharaoh, and the pharaoh owns everything, and then everyone else is slaves. Guys, we got to get away with that. We got to chant down Babylon. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Like, the older I get, I don't agree with that because not everyone is going to be related or born into the presence of that. So, though, let's get back to the working hard myth. We're told that the harder you work, the more successful you're going to be. Now, remember earlier when I mentioned that when you have a slice of a pie, the people that got to the pie first are going to get a bigger slice cheaper. This is a example, a metaphor for capitalism. Okay. Now, people essentially, if you're sending your kid to university, college, but there's no jobs for them once they graduate, what you are trying to do is you're paying more for a smaller piece of the pie. Does that make sense? You're paying more for a smaller piece of the pie. Housing. Think about this, guys. If the average salary in the United States now is let's be generous and say 60,000. We in fact we're not even going to get on taxes. So let's say the average salary after taxes is 50,000. So they really made about 70, 75, 80, but they walked away with 50. So 30,000 of those taxes went into the system, but they don't get the people are not getting the benefits from the taxes that they're paying into, right? Let's say 16 to 20,000 of those dollars that they made have to go to housing, whether they rent in, mortgage, about 16, 20,000. That's pretty average in the United States going towards housing because they have to live somewhere. Okay. Another 5,000 is going to go towards different types of insurances. So right there, we just half of their income is going to housing and insurance. Now, let's say they have debt or other bills because it's more to life than just life insurance, health insurance, car insurance, and housing. So let's say you do start paying your student loans and or you start trying to save money. You're going to realize that $50,000, because you still have to eat, $50,000 in the United States is not much money. So this is why I think younger people are screwed because they're going to pay more for less for they're going to pay more for a smaller slice of the pie. So like for example, let's say people in New York. This is a great or San Francisco. They pay exuberant prices for small studio apartments. They're paying more for a slice of the pie to live in that city. Whereas if you come further south, you can get a bigger slice of the pie for a cheaper price relatively compared to some of these other places. But what's going to happen in the United States is all places are going to become New York, basically, or San Francisco. All places in the United States are going to become unaffordable. And when we get to the jobs, guys, the jobs are never going to come back to the United States. Why? If a billionaire, and you guys love billionaires, if a billionaire can take $5 million, send some jobs to China, Thailand, or Asia, or Africa, even the Caribbean, Latin America, right? Any one of these other places, and they can create more jobs and pay the employees less. So let's say they were in America and they paid every employee at base made $40,000. How far would a $5 million go if they have 200 employees? Not very far, right? And this is just numbers I'm throwing out. But if you took that same 5 million, started a manufacturing company, and started it overseas, you could, what they say, buy low, sell high. They can buy the business, run the business, manufacture the business for a cheaper price, pay their employees a cheaper price than what they would be able to do in the United States. I think that the problem with the United States is that the people who came from Europe and other places too, it's not just the Europeans, but they were the dominant people making the rules of the land here. So that's why I'm acknowledging them. They came from a place where they had a king. They were escaping religious persecution. And they had been under this system for a very long time, being ruled by monarchs in Europe. So I think when they came here, the idea was we're not going to have a king, but it was all that they knew, really. So even though they tried to create a system that wasn't exactly like what Europe was, is more similar to Europe than anything else. They still have a king. They still have unequal balance of power. Now, on paper, it looks a certain type of way. On paper, it looks like the land of the free and all of this stuff. But the implementation of it, we know that that's not true. So, what I think they did was they wanted to convince every normal man and woman, after a while, women too, that you are special, you are a queen, you are a king. But you got to understand the difference between a monarchy and we supposed to have a system they call the allodial system. Allodial system. That's a new vocabulary word. You could check it out. So an allodial system means that you have right to private ownership, land ownership. Whereas in the monarchy system, the king owned everything. The king owned everything. You own nothing. Everything belongs to the king. And what the king does is the king appoints lords, essentially, landlords, but lords. And then you can look at our system and look at we have a president, the federal government, right? We have the executive branch, and then we have state and local governments, right? And you could look at the governor of each state as the Lord that was appointed, not necessarily by the king, but we say by the people, but we know it's deeper than that, right? It just follow me. So I'm trying to show how our system and the system of like most of our laws are really based on canon law. Some is based on religion still. It's still that element in there too. And uh o- Roman law, right? This is what our laws are really stem from. And we have some de facto and common law customs around. But basically, I say that in the future, it doesn't matter how hard you work. You're not part of the group that got the slice of pie first. And for the little crumbs that you do get, you're going to have to pay more for it. And I realize one of the reasons that is because if I was raised in a system or my ancestors was raised in a system where we had these kings and the king owned everything, the king owned everything, and then I finally escaped from them and I'm sent over here and I create a new land, we colonize it. I'm going to make myself a king. That's just what they did. So now you have people with these giant houses, lawns. Guys, I seen a video the other day that was so heavy. It said that the history of like having a front lawn goes back to the Europeans in Europe where everybody used their lawn, their yard, their grass to grow food. And to have a lawn or a patch of grass that you didn't plant food on was to show your wealth. Like you were so wealthy that you don't even have to use the land to grow food. So, in closing, I think that the younger people are struggling, and I think that we should continue to voice that we're struggling. I think that we shouldn't pretend that everything is good. I think that we should continue to voice that we're struggling, because if you're silent about what's going on, then they would think that you are happy and you enjoy it. I think it's okay for us to question the norms and ask questions. I don't know everything, you guys. I'm not the smartest person on earth. If I were, we probably would be living in a different system because I would probably want to create a different system. But I would say that we need to create a system based on justice where there's no people struggling. That people are treated fairly and have a decent standard of living. It's so sad, guys. We living in a world right now where there's school pew pews and their daycare costs exorbitant fees and you know people are really struggling like the food industry like we created this like we could have created or they could have created I should say but I'm a part of it so I say we and it's not too late we could have created a world that was better than this that was about justice instead we are in the midst of creating a world where we're going to be ruled by monarchs, a new type of monarchs. the billionaire class. And now people are aspiring to be millionaires. And at one point in time, I thought about that if you had enough money, you would be free. But now I'm starting to realize that no matter if you don't have a lot of money or you do have a lot of money, until we change the system, you're still you're still in it. The billionaires, the millionaires, the wealthy, they are not free. They need the system to continue. So as much as people might say they want to change or they want to change things, if you were benefiting off this system and you had a slice of pie, would you care how many people had to pay more for a smaller slice of the pie? No. So I would love to hear what you think in the comments. I'm Brian. Welcome to my channel. Peace.